universe, macrocosm. This is true in the microcosm as well. We'll come to that. In the macrocosm, when the universe, see, Kali Yuga, they say we're in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is a state where everyone is predominantly in tamas. So what happens is, it is not possible to continue when you're predominantly tamasic. So what, you end up killing each other, total pralaya, destruction takes place. Then when there is creation, the sattvic guna is predominant. In the individual, the same thing happens. You take all of us. Whenever you are creative, whenever you are doing something really productive and useful to yourself and in society, you find your sattvic content has come up to the surface. Maintenance, if it's rajasic, it's okay, because that much effort is not required to maintain what you have already started. But if you get into tamasic mode, then there is destruction. Now, we don't have to sit there and say, oh, what to do, our ill luck, bad luck that we are born in Kali Yuga. No. In this Kali Yuga, you can create a Satya Yuga. You can create sattvic qualities, and then you become the center of attraction from which all sattvic qualities emanate. You will be doing the greatest service to society and humanity if all you have to do for that is establish yourself in sattva. The 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita can be divided into 6 topics. The first 4 verses speak of how you and I are this combination of matter and spirit, and how Brahman is the father of all living beings. The second topic speaks of how the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, it defines what they are and how they bind the human being to matter. Remember, these 3 qualities, including sattva, are born of prakriti, matter. So anything, any association with matter binds you to the world. The third topic, how sattva, rajas, tamas combine. See, no single quality can exist by itself. All of us are permutations and combinations of the 3 gunas, just as the 3 primary colors, red, yellow and blue, combine to form the infinite variety of colors in the world. Similarly, the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, combine to form the magnificent variety of living beings in the world. There is no person in the world who is an exact copy of you. Each one is unique. Each one of us is unique. And this uniqueness is endowed on us because of this combination of the 3 gunas. Then, what happens? What is the effect of being predominantly sattvic, rajasic or tamasic? This is an inspiring portion. It's also a frightening portion, because it says, what in the predominance of sattva, when you die, what happens? In the predominance of rajas, when you die, where are you propelled in your next birth? In the predominance of tamas, if you die, what happens? Now when he says predominance of tamas when you die, throughout your life, what is the guna that you are inculcating within you? And remember, most of us are blissfully unaware of this. Not only that, there is no guarantee on life. We don't know how long we're going to live. And there is no preparation for the afterlife. There is no preparation for life itself, never mind death. In the period of this life, this uncertain life that we have, there is no preparation. Even in this lifetime, if you cultivate sattva, what kind of environment do you have? Is what he speaks of. And then transcend these 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. Throughout the Gita, Krishna keeps on saying, in the 2nd chapter for instance, he says, the Vedas speak of the 3 gunas. Transcend these 3 gunas, O Arjuna. Nistraya gunyo bhavarjuna. You know, the problem is, we are so steeped in rajas and tamas, we don't even know sattva. When are we going to rise to the concept of gunatita is the question. Anyway, he speaks of this transcending sattva, rajas, tamas, and the sixth portion, the most inspiring portion, he says, having transcended the three gunas, become Brahman. Become Brahman means what? Brahman you already are. Then what's the problem? You don't know you're Brahman. So the whole process is to understand that you are Brahman. With this, we move to the first verse of chapter 14.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Param Bhuya Pravakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajñatva Munaya Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha, the Blessed Lord said, I will teach further the supreme wisdom, the highest of all knowledge, knowing which all the munis, sages, the greatest of human beings, went from here to supreme perfection. What an inspiring verse. What he's saying is, all our ancestors, the greatest of human beings that trod this earth, they, having known this knowledge which I am going to teach you now, says Krishna, they went from here, from the state of finitude, from the state of limitation, from the state of imprisonment and sorrow and suffering, to that state of supreme perfection. When he says that, what is the suggestion? The suggestion is that every one of us can get there. In our scriptures, there is no demarcation of, oh, was a Krishna and there's a Rama and you and I can never aspire to reach that state. No. From childhood, we are brought up on a diet of stories of these magnificent personalities. So many there were. And this concept is ingrained in each one of us that we can aspire to reach there and reach there here and now. That's the message here. Went from here to supreme perfection. Munayaha, the munis, the great sages, the seers. Who were they? Our ancestors. And somehow through the passage of time, this greatest of knowledge, which was passed on from father to son, from mother to daughter, from grandparent to grandchild, somehow got lost. He says that in the 4th chapter. In a very sad tone. Krishna never speaks sadly, but that one verse has a hint of sadness in it, because this magnificent knowledge has somehow got lost. And it is up to us to revive it, to rejuvenate it, to inspire ourselves with this knowledge and get there. He says, Bhuyaha, again. I'm telling you this knowledge again because he's already told us 14 chapters have gone, at least 13 chapters have gone. And every single chapter he's spoken to us again. Why again? Because repetition is necessary for wisdom to dawn. If it is told once, you know it, but you don't live it. But when it is repeated over and over again and again, then it gets into your system. Remember in childhood, I'm sure you don't remember, but you go to a school and watch children. Just to learn 2 plus 2 equals 4, how many lessons are taken? So first you say 2 plus 2 equals, they learn it by rote, they learn it by heart, and they say 4. And then you put the same addition in some other context, 2 plus 1 is, I don't know. To get this concept of addition in their minds, so that you wake them up in the middle of the night and say 3 plus 5 is, they'll get the answer. It requires so many lessons. Then they need to give homework, and then they say 3 apples plus 2 bananas equals how many fruits? Gone. They don't know. If you say 2 groups of similar objects, they know the answer. 2 groups of dissimilar objects, they're confused. Same thing happens to us. Again and again, Krishna tells us, you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not the intellect, you're Atman. Yes, I know. You go back, the food is not good, throw the plate, throw a tantrum. But you're not the body. Don't get the message. Therefore, bhuyaha, again. Param jnanam, uttamam jnanam. The highest knowledge. Why is it the highest knowledge? Because this is the only knowledge by which you know all other knowledges. See, it's the most crucial knowledge which you have to learn. If you don't know physics, you can live without it. If you don't know chartered accountancy, you can definitely manage without it. If you don't know, what else? Commerce. If you are not a BCom, you can manage very well. But if you don't know Vedanta, you just can't live. How do you know that? You know, Krishna played the flute. The flute is a magnificent, it's such a simple instrument consisting of just bamboo and which is hollow inside. And it has 7 apertures. So this combination of bamboo and that hollowness, emptiness within is you and me. Our personality is that flute. Of that incredible combination of matter, the bamboo, with something inexplicable, indefinable, which is the spirit. You don't know what it is, and yet you know there is something. This individual, you and me, the combination of matter and spirit, which is portrayed as the flute, has 7 apertures. The 7 windows to our personality are the 5 senses, mind and intellect. These 5 senses, mind and intellect, when you and I operate with, because we don't know how to play the flute, we don't know how to live life, we don't know have this technology of life, you and I come out with discordant notes, terrible sound. I don't want to experiment because it will cause greater agitation. If I were to give you a flute, assuming you are not a Hari Prasad Chaurasya, you play the flute, what happens? All of us will plug our ears. Terrible sound. And yet, Krishna, the master flute player, a person who has mastered this knowledge, all he has, have you heard, never mind Krishna, have you heard Hari Prasad Chaurasya's rendering? One note he plays and it sends a thrill down your spine. What must be the playing of Krishna, that master flutist? That's the difference. So, this technology you and I cannot live without. And we are living without it, therefore we are coming out with the most discordant notes, the most terrible music. How do we know that? Ask people around you. You mention your name, they say, oh. Mention Krishna's name even now, thousands of years later, and what is the sentiment that comes in our mind? One of devotion, of love, of respect, right? That's the difference. That's why he says, Param Jnanam, Uttamam Jnanam. Because without this knowledge we can't function. That's the supreme, unconditioned consciousness. Second verse.
Idam jnanamupashritya mama sadharmyam agataha sarge pinopajayante pralayena vyathanti cha.
Having anchored in this knowledge, idam jnanam upashritya, having taken refuge in this knowledge, and mama sadharmyam agataha, having become one with me. They means who? The munis, the great sages, the finest caliber of human beings that were born in the world. What happens to them? They are not born at the time of sarga, creation, nor troubled. Vyathanti means troubled, agitated, disturbed at the time of pralaya, dissolution. He is speaking in terms of the absolute. Once you become Atman, once you reach the state of realization, it doesn't matter whether there is the process of creation, sarga is there. He's talking of the macrocosm. Where the universe comes into being, nothing happens to such a person. When the universe dissolves into the unmanifest state, also nothing happens to you. How do you understand this? When you, as a waker, wake up from a dream into the waking state, right? And with the knowledge of the waking state, suppose you had the option of getting back into the dream. where you're experiencing the dream but with the knowledge of the waking. Then what will happen? Nothing that goes on in the dream's state will affect you. There may be a tsunami in the dream, nothing will happen to you. Why? Because you understand it's an illusory projection on the waker's mind, and you have knowledge of the waker's mind. And you hit a jackpot or lottery and you earn, or Bill Gates comes and says, I give you a grant of $50 million. Where? In the dream. Will you be excited? That's what he's saying here. Idam jnanam upashritya. How to take refuge in this knowledge. In the relative, self-realization may be a far cry for us. But in the relative sense, you understand how the law of karma functions and take refuge in that. Abide by it. When you abide by the law of karma, you gain this tremendous sense of confidence that is unshakable. Nothing in the world can shake your confidence. It's like walking through customs and you have nothing, you're not carrying anything except what you went out with. What will you come out with? What is the highest position in the customs department? That guy can be hanging around there watching you. Nothing will happen to you. But if you're carrying even one small object that you know is contraband, you know what will happen? You will get picked straight away. When you violate a law, you lose the confidence. And all of us are violating the law somewhere or the other, therefore we have no confidence. And because of this lack of confidence, you resort to astrologers, tarot card readers, palmists. If nothing else is available, you go to the roadside where a fellow is sitting there with a parrot picking cards. If you are abiding by the law of karma, you won't go to an astrologer. And even if you meet an astrologer socially, you will tell him, I don't want you to tell me. I will tell you what is going to happen. It's not arrogance, it's not ego, it's confidence. You understand the difference? That's what he's saying. Idam jnanam upashritya. Then there's no cringing. There's supreme confidence you have. And then what happens? As you align yourself with the law and then the lawgiver after that, with that supreme presence of which you become aware every moment of your life, then you become that sadharmyam. Sadharmyam is not similarity of quality but identity. You become that being. Remember, the law is as you think, so you become. We've been unintelligently thinking of body, mind and intellect. We've become physical, emotional, intellectual personalities, weak, dependent. And that's our condition today. But at any stage, you shift the focus of your attention and thinking to Atman while you are a physical, emotional, intellectual entity. There is a complete transformation in your personality. That's how an ordinary Narendra became an extraordinary Vivekananda. An ordinary Tirtharam became an extraordinary Ramatirtha. An ordinary Jesus became the Christ. That's the difference. And that difference you and I can bring about in our lives. So thereafter, there is no birth or death. It's like this. The waves on the surface of the ocean have a birth and a death. So as long as you're focusing on the wave, you go through this traumatic change. But at any moment you focus on the ocean, the birth of the wave doesn't affect you, the death of the wave does not affect you, because you understand everything is the ocean. When you chant Om, Om consists of 3 syllables, A, U and Ma, which represent the waking, dream and deep sleep states of consciousness. You and I are caught up in this cycle of waking, dream, deep sleep, waking, dream, deep sleep. Never at any stage do we go beyond them to the silence, and that silence pervades, exists just as when you chant Om, A, U, Ma. Silence remains when there is sound also. Silence remains when there is no sound also. So when the sound is born, nothing happens. When the sound dies, nothing happens if you are focused on silence. Similarly, in and through the waking, dream and deep sleep states, if you focus on the substratum, the bedrock on which these three come, play and dissolve, nothing happens to you. That's what he's saying here. This is the highest truth. It's difficult, it's heavy, but the best things in life are difficult in the beginning. If you want to play the sitar, it's very difficult in the beginning. By the time you get your finger on the right note, this thing goes. If you want to sing, learn. Your first lesson in music is the most traumatic experience, because the tanpura is at one note, you are singing at another note. It's very difficult. By mistake, if you get the right note also, it doesn't remain. You want to play tennis, difficult in the beginning. Anything that is valuable is difficult in the beginning, but once you master it, it's great fun. And life is like that. It's like these computer games that come up. Each computer game has different levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4. If you don't know what it is, go home and ask your children or grandchildren, depending on your age. And these children are technology driven. So when they buy a new game, they play at level 1 for some time, and then they learn the mastery and quickly move to level 2, 3, 4. If you as an adult are playing with them, you have a terrible handicap. Level 1 itself you can't play. Vedanta teaches you this art of playing level 4, 5, 6. So what happens is, in life, the greater the challenge that you meet with, the greater is the thrill of playing the game, right? If you are at level 5 and you're forced to play at level 1, life becomes the game becomes boring. Similarly, in the game of life, as you master the art of meeting with life's challenges and one by one knocking out the obstacles, which you do in a computer game, right? That it becomes enjoyable. And it becomes enjoyable when you have something to anchor yourself to. Therefore, he says, having anchored in this knowledge and become one with me, they are not born at the time of sarga, nor troubled at the time of pralaya. Now, as long as you have the three gunas, these gunas will manifest. And so then you're caught up. The moment the gunas manifest, you're caught up in this birth and death cycle. You can't extricate yourself. You have to have a viable management scheme of these three gunas and then go beyond them. Now we take verses 3 and 4 together.
Mama yonirmahad brahma tasmin garbham dadhamyaham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti yaha tasam brahma mahadyonihi aham bija pradapita.
My womb is the great Brahma, in which I place the seed. From that comes the birth of all beings, O Bharata, descendant of Bharata. This is verse 3. And then verse 4, he says, O Kaunteya, great Brahma is the womb, and I, the seed-giving father of the forms born in all wombs. In these two verses, he is giving a theory of creation. The theory of creation is given in several scriptures in different ways, because from our standpoint, there is a creation. You understand? There is a point at which the universe came into being. From where did it come from? We don't know. But we know one thing, that the universe, matter has come into being. That you and I, living beings, have come into being. Since in our perception we are seeing creation, the question arises, how did this creation come? So to appease our intellect, some story is given. But the truth is, once you realize the truth is that there is no creation. The creation is all in your mind. It's an illusory, imaginary projection. Therefore, there is no creation. The truth is that there is no creation, and the theory of creation falls apart. But as long as you are seeing a creation, a theory of creation has to be given to you to appease your intellect, and that's what he's doing here. So we, living beings, are the children of spirit and matter. Spirit is the father, matter the mother. The mother binds us to her. The father liberates us. So the question is, which one do you don't go back home and say, mother, you are matter. It's not literally. It's unnecessarily you'll pick on your mother. No. Matter binds us. And the more you identify with matter, the more you get caught in this cauldron of matter. Father, spirit liberates us. You know, even here, for this hour and a half you come here, temporarily, in this hour and a half, maybe a few minutes you think of spirit, and that too you have not become the spirit, you don't know the spirit, you're thinking of something other than matter. It's such a relief, isn't it? That's why we all come here, for the Gita. Not to study sattva, rajas, tamas, not to study 14th chapter of the Gita, but what really elevates us, what really liberates us is the thought of something other than matter. Therefore, now he says, Krishna, a personification of Brahman who is giving this theory of creation, says, Brahman is the supreme reality. When you don't understand Brahman as Brahman, the ignorance of Brahman is the seed